It all started on what seemed like a perfectly ordinary day. I woke up, got ready for work, kissed my wife goodbye, and promised I'd be home in time for dinner. I had no idea that promise would nearly be broken forever. I was 47 years old, a mechanical engineer, not particularly religious, not particularly spiritual. I believed in what I could see, measure, and build. To me, the universe was a system of equations and mechanics. Life had rules, and death was final. I thought I had it all figured out, until the day everything collapsed. I was on my way to a site inspection when I felt a strange pressure in my chest. It wasn't painful at first, just uncomfortable. I brushed it off as stress, maybe indigestion, and kept going. But minutes later, the pressure turned into a searing pain that radiated down my left arm. My vision blurred. I pulled the car over and managed to dial emergency services. I remember saying just one thing before everything went dark. I think I'm having a heart attack. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about life, death, and the soul. I was declared clinically dead for just under 7 minutes. 7 minutes. That's all it took to erase everything I believed in and replace it with a truth so profound I still struggled to put it into words. The moment my heart stopped, I felt myself being pulled, not dragged, but gently lifted out of my body. I could see the paramedics working on me. I could see the defibrillator, the CPR, the panic in their eyes. But I felt no fear, no pain, no urgency, only peace. A profound, all-consuming peace. I hovered above my body, watching, detached but aware. And then, everything shifted. A light, but not just any light. It wasn't blinding. It was warm, intelligent, alive. It wasn't just shining, it was inviting. It didn't speak, but it communicated directly to the deepest part of me. I felt known, completely. All my secrets, my regrets, my joys, nothing was hidden, and yet I felt no shame. Only love. An overwhelming, impossible love. And then I felt movement. I wasn't walking, flying, or floating in any traditional sense. I was simply being drawn towards something, as if I were returning home after a long, long journey. I arrived in what can only be described as a space beyond time. There were no walls, no sky, no ground, and yet everything was there. Shapes formed out of light. I saw colors that don't exist in this world, harmonies that played in silence, and landscapes made of emotion. I know how impossible that sounds, but it's the only way I can describe it. There were beings there, not human, not alien, just beings made of light, or maybe love. I recognized them even though I didn't know them. Some felt like family, others like friends I had forgotten. One came closer and, without words, conveyed everything I needed to know. They showed me my life, not as a movie, but as a feeling. Every moment I had caused joy, pain, healing, or harm, I felt it all. Not from my perspective, but from the perspective of others. When I spoke harshly to someone, I felt their hurt. When I showed kindness, I felt their gratitude. It was beautiful and unbearable all at once. And then I saw a moment I had long buried, a time when I could have saved someone, and didn't. I wept, not because I was being judged, but because I was finally able to see the truth. The being asked me, again without words, if I wanted to stay, I wanted to, God, how I wanted to. But then I saw her, my wife, crying in a hospital waiting room. I saw my children's faces, confused and terrified. And I knew I wasn't done. I hadn't finished what I came here to do, even though I didn't know what that was yet. And that's when it happened. A force, gentle but undeniable, began pulling me backward. The light faded, the warmth receded, and suddenly I felt pain again. Pain in my chest, pressure in my lungs, cold instruments against my skin, and the sound, beep, 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 of a heart monitor. I was back. They said it was a miracle, that I shouldn't have survived. That being without a heartbeat for that long usually means brain damage, but I was fine. Better than fine. Except I wasn't the same. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The hospital room was filled with machines, The sterile scent of antiseptic cool, murmurs from nurses and the worried gaze of my wife holding my hand. But I was still halfway between two worlds. For days, I said nothing. I couldn't. Not because I was afraid of sounding crazy, but because I didn't have the language for what I had experienced. How do you describe seeing love as a color? How do you explain hearing silence sing? How do you tell people that death isn't the end, it's a return? I began to dream things I had never seen but somehow knew. I dreamt of people I'd never met, of places that don't exist on any map. I'd wake up with tears streaming down my face, unable to remember the details, but aching with a longing that pierced my soul. And then the visions began. They weren't hallucinations. I wasn't on any medication strong enough to cause what I saw. These were clear, real. I saw flashes of light in the corners of rooms, felt presences near me when I was alone. Once I looked into the eyes of a nurse and knew she was suffering deeply, hiding a pain so personal it had never been spoken aloud. I told her she was not alone. She broke down in tears. Another time, a man came into my room for routine maintenance. Something told me to speak to him about his son. I didn't know why, I just knew. I told him his son forgave him. He froze, pale, then sat down and sobbed, saying his son had died 2 years ago in a car accident. They had fought the day before and never made peace. I didn't understand why these things were happening. I didn't ask for them. I didn't want attention. I was an engineer, not a prophet. And yet I couldn't ignore it. Something had changed in me. The place I had gone. It had left a mark. Eventually, I told my wife everything. She listened without interruption, her eyes wide and filling with tears. When I finished, she held my hand tighter than ever and whispered, "I believe you." That gave me the strength to share it with others. At first, I only talked to a small support group for people who had experienced near-death events. I expected skepticism, maybe even ridicule. Instead, I was met with nods, tears, and gasps of familiarity. They had seen the same light, felt the same love. We weren't crazy. We were chosen to remember. But there was something else, a message, a mission. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had come back for a reason, something I was supposed to do, share, build, become. I started volunteering at hospitals, sitting with the dying. Just sitting, holding hands, listening. Sometimes they asked me questions. Other times, they said nothing. I just sat there. And I'd feel it, the light from that place radiating through me, reaching them. Some smiled, some wept, but all felt it. One woman, terminal with cancer, asked me if I believed in God. I looked into her eyes and said, "I know God exists. Not because someone told me, but because I saw him." She smiled, closed her eyes, and took her last breath. Peacefully. It was then I realized I had been given a gift. Not one I deserved, not one I earned, but one I had to honor. So I changed my life. I sold the engineering firm, took early retirement, downsized my home. I didn't need much anymore. What I needed couldn't be bought. I dedicated my time to helping people who were grieving, lost or afraid of dying. But not everyone understood. Some thought I had lost my mind. Old colleagues avoided me. Even some relatives whispered that the heart attack had done something to my brain. Let them talk, because I knew. I had seen what comes after. I had felt love in its purest form, and I had been given a second chance to share it. But it wasn't just about comfort, it was also a warning. In that place, during the life review, I had seen what we do to others, how every word, every action echoes beyond what we can comprehend. I had seen how seemingly small choices become defining moments. I had seen how hate poisons and how love heals. And I had seen that we are never alone, not in life, not in death, not even in our darkest hours, because something is watching, waiting, guiding. And if we truly listen, not with our ears, but with our hearts, we'll hear it. Months passed, then a year, then more. Life settled into a new rhythm, one where time didn't feel like something to be chased, but something to be honored. I woke each morning with gratitude simply for the breath in my lungs, I no longer feared death. Instead, I respected it. It wasn't a thief, but a messenger. Every now and then, someone would ask, "Why you? Why did you come back?" I never had an answer that felt complete. I still don't. But I believe this. I wasn't chosen because I was special. I was brought back because I wasn't finished. There was more to learn, more to give, and maybe, just maybe, more to remember, because the truth is, we all come from that place. We just forget. We get buried in schedules and bills and noise. We forget who we are, but the soul remembers, always. Sometimes I dream of the light. I see the faces of those beings. I hear music that doesn't exist here, and I wake up crying, not from sadness, but from beauty, from longing. But the message is always the same. Love is everything. It's the thread that connects every moment, every person, every soul. It's what we're made of, what we're returning to, and what we're here to express, even in the smallest acts. It's in forgiving when we've been hurt. It's in holding a child's hand. It's in calling someone just to say, "I'm thinking of you." It's in the silence between words. It's in the way we look at someone when we choose to see them. That's what I learned when I died. I still struggle sometimes. I still get frustrated. I still fall short of the person I want to be. But now, I see it when I do. I feel the ripple. And I try again. And when fear tries to grip me, fear of the unknown, of the future, of pain, I remember what I saw. There is nothing to fear, because death is not darkness. It's not punishment. It's not the end. It's the moment we wake up. So I keep going, one day at a time, trying to be a little more light, a little more love, a little more aware, because I know what waits on the other side, and it's not cold or empty or silent. It's warm and full and home. And if I was brought back to remind even one person of that truth, then it was worth it. This is my story, not a theory, not a dream, not a metaphor. It happened. Every moment of it, I died and I came back. By divine intervention, based on a true story.